Good morning and welcome to Preparing to Survive and Thrive Homesteading channel. So this little video is going to be some clips that I've done up over the last 2 to 3 months. It's actually been about my permanent garden, getting it ready, and also planting some of the strawberry plants. So hang on, here we go. I hope you enjoy. Good morning and welcome to Preparing to Survive and Thrive Homesteading channel. Now yes, I've got a toboggan on. I just had gloves on, but I took them off so I could operate the camera. But today is May 25th, 2023, and it is 42 degrees. So I'm dressed, and guess what? If you're seeing behind me, it is planting day. Yay! So I'm going to start off with my plants. They're a little late getting in the ground, but considering last week we had a frost, and this week it's went from 80 down to 42 now, and I guess tonight is supposed to, or today is supposed to be, I think the Weather Channel said about 69. So, and then tomorrow night is supposed to drop down again, or tonight, something like that. But I'm still half asleep. I haven't had my tea, but I'm going to swap you around. We're going to take a little quick trip around the garden. But before we do that, I want to show you a clip, if I can find it, of what the garden looked like before I started pulling the weeds. So, but hang on. Okay, so I've cleaned out the garden. I do have some daisies in here growing. I haven't pulled out, and of course I have my big thing of catnip, which I'm not going to pull out. As soon as the daisies bloom, I will go ahead and pull them out. And down here, I left some onions and for over winter. And these guys right here are starting to get little seed pod heads on them. This guy right down here, that's what it looks like now. Oh, there's a Milo. Yes, I have lots of garden cats. This took me about close to 2 weeks to get totally cleaned up, and I still have to till some of it, and I'm still working on some of the areas. But these are our onion seed heads. They're pretty cool looking, aren't they? Now I'm letting them get pollinated, and yes, that means I'm going to have some onions, seeds for onions. Now, I went ahead and got onions. That's going to actually be the first thing I plant today, and everything's cleaned up. And I actually have a little video of some potatoes that I had left in the ground that I'm going to add to this clip right here. So we are actually starting to get things in the ground, and we, well, my husband just dug up about a 40-foot row for me to put potatoes in. And this is my experimental patch. We did not dig them up last year, and we've actually got them coming up pretty good. I weeded it yesterday, and so I'll keep you updated on how that's going. And I'm going to make my hubby say hi. He was digging me out rocks.
Hello, hello.
He's sexy. Sorry, yeah, I love him. But what I'm going to do before I plant the potatoes is I'm going to put some comfrey leaves in there. And that is supposed to keep those, I think they're called nematodes, I could be wrong, keep them from eating the potatoes. And it seems to work. So let me get these going. However, when I did put these in last year, I have a comfrey plant that's growing up here in the potatoes that I have. So, but that's all right, because I can dig him up, or I can just leave him in there. But I guess we'll see. I really want to see how this experimental garden does go, just right here for this potato row. And yes, my hubby's been digging up rocks for me still. Yes, so let me get this down and we'll be back. So these are our last year potatoes. We did not use them all, and they have great eyes on them. Really great big eyes. And this is the comfrey leaves we're just laying down. We're just going to put them as close as we can. And that is a cat. That is Milo. He's helping us today. So Milo. Okay, well. All right, so I'm going to get busy. Okay, so this is the row. And yes, I have them packed close together. I wanted to use up the potatoes that I had. And last year we did them the 6 inches apart, and we had a lot of dead spots. So this year we're going to pack them close together, cover them over here in a minute. We'll have some eyes sticking out, and then when they start getting a little bit of green on them, I will go ahead and cover them again with some dirt. So let me get busy. And this one is Daisy. This is Milo's sister. Daisy Maisie. Yeah, she loves me. She also loves potatoes, I think. So last year I broke my drill and I ended up having to dig holes for everything. Well, I found another drill and I am going to be using the auger system this year to drill the holes. I'm going to start off with my cold weather plants and then move into my tomatoes and peppers and all those types of things. But we'll get to that in a little bit. And let me get myself set up, stringing extension cords everywhere. Lots of rocks in this ground, so using a battery operated drill really does not work for this ground. But we'll be back shortly. Okay, so we're out here with some onions, and I have my auger tool, my small one. This is great for planting onions, perfect size. What I have are globe onions. I just bought these the other day. These normally should have been planted in the spring, but I never get out here to plant them. Next year I'm going to do my best. I'm going to put that on my list to please try to plant earlier of my onions, my peas, my carrots, and stuff like that. But we're going to try it. I'd probably get a better harvest if I did it early. But I'm right now also looking to create seeds from my planted onions. So if I don't get them pulled, I'll let them go like I did last year. So with these, normally you would plant onions 1 inch to 1.5 inches deep, and you would space them about 2 to 3 inches. So what I'm doing is I'm actually going to go down about 2 inches. Let me see that. Okay, that's a little deeper than 2 inches, but that's all right. Because I've got some old horse manure and some bedding and stuff like that that we've been shoveling out of the barn that was left here. I'm just going to sprinkle some of this throughout the holes. And I'm going to take just a little bit of my eggshells that I baked. And there should be a video on that. And I'm just going to sprinkle them in the hole. Now, onions are hard feeders. They like a lot of nitrogen. So later today, I'm probably going to come out and throw some compost tea on here with my worm juice, as I refer to it, which is just compost tea. So I've got one done there. I'm going to go ahead and plant it for you. Now this will be the root, and this will be the top where the greens come out. I'm going to put it root side down, and I'm just going to cover it over. Yeah, the ground's pretty hard, but that's all right. I'll have to kind of rake this to loosen this, I guess, a little bit. So we haven't had any real rain here. It rained and rained and rained, and it's been probably about 9 days since we had any rain here, which is kind of scary. So, but that's pretty much how you do it. And I'm going to bring up a tool and show you how I'm going to loosen my soil without using a tiller also. So this little gadget here is actually a weed puller. It's kind of a little bent up, but that's all right. It still works because I still pull weeds with it. I have some hard weeds that do not like to come up. Like I said before, this was just let go for 20 plus years, if not more, and the weeds took over. So we're fighting weeds that have been seeded for a very long time. I think before that it might have been grass and or pasture a long time ago. Let me give you a view of this tool, bird's eye. It has something that looks like bicycle handles on top. It has these prongs down here. Now, if my world was perfect, this one prong would not be bent, but it is. So I don't think I'm going to be able to pull it to get it out, but that's all right. I can still use it. Nope, I'll have to get my husband to use the vise or something, or figure it out myself. But with this, all I'm going to do to loosen the soil, and I have the onion planted right there, so I don't want to make sure I mess that up. Just going to stab this in the ground as much as possible. Maybe do a little push here with my feet. And I'm just going to start twisting it. Just to loosen the ground enough so I can get some loose dirt here. And I'm going to continue this throughout the whole row. Okay. Do it on the other side of my onion. Cannot believe that this got so freaking compacted. I've been pulling weeds and that should have really loosened the dirt. But that's alright. It's loosening up now pretty good. Okay, so I'm sure you don't want to sit and listen to me talk and watch me do this. And we'll be back. Alright, so I got the onions planted. Now we moved on. I loosened my garden with that tool. And where this is my spinach, I'm going to plant that first, because this is the shadiest side of the garden. And then I'm going to do some loose leaf lettuce. It's like a salad mix. These guys up here, not these guys. I'll get to those in a second. But what's cool about these is before I put them in the bigger pot, I literally cut some of them off and use them in my salad. So I was actually eating these before I'm even bringing them out to the garden. Now the other one is the romaine lettuce. I've got another whole tray of these guys, and hopefully these will grow better than what they did last year. But what I'm going to do is very similar to the onions when I plant these guys. I am going to use my big auger. Let me get this around here before I flip you over. It's a really big auger. Okay, so I'm going to drill a hole down just deep enough to drop these plants in and put a little bit of dirt up on top of them. I am also going to be using my horse manure and my eggshells to put in the bottom. So if the pot is 3 inches, I'm probably going to try to go down about 4. Okay, so let me start drilling a hole. And I'm also planting these. I'm going to attempt to plant them every 12 inches. Now, this irrigation, came from Grower Solution, and it has a hard plastic with a hole in it about every 12 inches. So I'm going to be planting my lettuce every 12 inches apart. That's kind of far, I'll be honest. So I'll probably actually do them a lot closer than that. But whatever is next to this hole will get the most water. Okay? So let me bring you back to where we are digging the hole. As with me, I am going to tempt fate and do everything more like 6 inches apart. Yep, I'm going to try it. But I need to be able to get these all planted, but hopefully the water will spill out better and more evenly. Just some of it won't get quite as much because it is a drip irrigation. Now this guy has a lot of power and digs a big hole. Yeah, my soil's pretty hard. Now, if I hit a rock, you'll definitely hear it. But I'm just going to plant these first two. And, of course, again, clean out the hole a little bit. Drop some manure. Some more on this one, too. Get that kind of roughed down in there. Now, you're probably thinking, well, the manure is not going to decompose that fast. You're correct in that assumption. However, this will be a slow feeding method. The eggshells will not also start to decompose for a little while. Do a little bit extra in these holes since they're bigger. Let's start with our spinach. Now, if you recall, whenever I was planting these guys, starting them, they came from one plant that I started, the only plant that survived from seeds that I had bought, and I got some seeds, so I planted a whole bunch. And I let last year's go to completely to seed. This year I'm hoping to actually be able to eat some. Now when I drop these guys out, I try to put my hands right underneath the plants when I go to drop the root ball. I'm going to drop that right in there. Yes, they're very wet. Now, why I've been putting these guys in, I've also been watering these with my compost tea from my worm juice. There we have one. Let's go ahead and get another one done for you so you can see what I'm doing. Just slide my fingers underneath the leaves. I usually go to the middle and to one of the other sides, and I just drop it. Now, I can't really tell you how much manure and everything else like that to use. It's just kind of, I just sprinkle a little bit on top. And this is older manure, so it's definitely been broken down. I have heard you have to let chicken manure set minimal 6 months before you can use it in this type of situation, or even on the garden if you have plants. I also know that you're supposed to let your cow manure and horse manure to compost for at least 6 months, but this has been several years worth of composting. And in order to feed on top, I'll come back out later with some compost tea and water this exact spot. Now, I could have just taken manure and eggshells and smeared everywhere, but what I'm doing right here is I'm actually feeding this one plant. I'm not feeding over here, I'm feeding here. Okay, so I'm going to finish this up, and I'm going to do, like I said, my lettuce, both types, the exact same way, and we'll be back. Okay, well, we are up here with the lettuce, and we have Daisy and Buster taking a drink out of the pots. That was just water. I did not use my compost tea. Ah, there's Stash also. There's your moments of cuteness. Let's get to the garden. The lettuce that I planted and the spinach is actually up here. But what I'm showing you is how dark the soil is right now, because I watered last night for about 4 hours. Turned it off in the middle of the night, and this is how well the irrigation spread out. Now, some of it didn't get everywhere, but I'm sure as it goes down, it spreads out. And the cabbage, well, I started planting the cabbage too. This up here is my red cabbage. I planted it the same way I did the lettuce. However, what I decided to do, I read this, that if I put, what's this stuff called? Dill in with the cabbage, that it would prevent pests. So I've got one on that side, and I got one at the other end of the row, and one at another row that I'm getting ready to start. But we did pretty good on the watering. I'm happy. Sun's starting to come up out here. But the dill's doing well, and I pulled that out of my herb garden. It was volunteers. No, I have not finished my herb garden. That's next on my list. But, yes. So, let's see if the cabbage bug stays off of it. But I'm going to be honest. I'm going to cover them after I get everything planted anyhow. I'm not taking a chance this year. So, we'll be back. Okay, so I finished planting the cabbage. And I started moving on to the cauliflower, which I have right here. Now, when I did the cabbage, the cauliflower, broccoli, and Brussels sprouts, I made sure that every one of them was next to a drip hose right here, as close as I possibly could. It's probably going to make a liar out of me, but right there's the plant. I'm going to straighten them up a little bit, make them even better. Line up the drip hose, that is. Now, what's crazy is I got my labels messed up. When I was transporting some things, I kind of went boom, and yep. So I might have broccoli and cauliflower and Brussels sprouts all mixed in together, but that's all right. So they'll all come up. They're about the same size, and I'm going to cover everything this year, so it's all good. Down here some more of hopefully the broccoli, but we'll see. Now this row right here I had leftover lettuce. So I planted it there, and I did some other onions that I had in pots, trying to stay out of the shade. And I felt sorry for these poor leeks. They were all bound up together at this place that I shop for herbs and different things like that. And so I ended up buying some poor defenseless leeks. Now, I have some more onions I wanted to plant, and I must not have started lots of cabbage or anything like that because I was actually a row shy, so that's all right. So what I did with this is instead of digging the ground or puncturing a hole in the ground with that little auger, I went ahead and used my weed eating tool that I showed earlier in the video and loosened up the dirt really good. And then I took a hoe and made a ditch and threw the manure and the eggshells down. Now, the only problem with this method was I used a lot more fertilizer. So with these, I just put the onions root side down, and I'm going to slowly start covering these guys over. Okay, sorry about the noise. We have people running tractors and we're tilling and everything else like that. But this is where I ended planting the onions. And since I hoed it, everything started to bunch up towards the end. So I'm just covering these guys over. The soil is very loose, and I will put the, excuse me, I'm hand holding this. I will put the irrigation back up on top of it closer than what I had it. So I'm going to finish this up and down, and we'll be back in a little bit. Okay, well, what have I been up here today in the garden? Well, I planted my okra. I have actually 15 plants. I planted them 2 per hole. I drilled about a 4 to 5 inch hole and dropped the plants in there. I did that all the way down here, so I ended up with a total of 15 plants, or total of 15 holes with 30 plants in total. My okra is not looking the best this year, but that's all right because I'm hoping it will come back and do really great. Honestly, my husband and daughter would prefer it to just die because they don't really care for okra. Now, our fun crop for the year, I bought some peanut plants. My husband says, oh, let's try these. So, yep, I planted them. I think we have 10 in total, something like that. So they could get up to 60 peanuts per plant. Could be interesting. Yes, I'm just trying to get this to go down there, but it doesn't want to go down there. So, okay, I'll fix that later. And then I went into this row and I turned it into some pepper plants. Now, if you recall, my pepper plants did not come up good, so I actually bought these from a greenhouse. And this is something called Jim Nardos. They are supposed to be a heirloom sweet Italian pepper. They're going to be kind of cool looking, I think, but I just have to make sure I don't mix them up with a hot pepper because, yeah, that could be very interesting on food. But I got a couple plants of those, and when I planted these guys, these over here are just some giant bell peppers. I tried to get heirloom for everything. Now I've got another whole row back here, all the way down there. Different types of peppers. My hot peppers will go down past the corn and stuff like that. But when I plant the pepper plants, I try to do a 6-inch hole at least, if sometimes even more, and plant it all the way down until the leaves are just coming up. I really need to fix that shadow. So you can see how low I've gotten it to the ground. So that's what I'm doing. I'm actually getting ready to head out and plant my sweet potatoes. We'll be back for that in a second. Okay, I have you on a tripod, but I'm going to hand hold you for this. Sweet potatoes need to be in a mound. So I had my husband, and I'm sorry I didn't film it, but he actually plowed me up a good mound. So I already have the irrigation laid out. But the reason I laid out the irrigation first is I'm going to plant the sweet potatoes a foot apart. So I'm going to sit you back down here. And pray this thing doesn't fall over, because it does that occasionally. So let me get this set up. I'll be back. Okay, now I cheated on these plants. I have not got mine in pots to get it to root. So I'm going to, when I do get the food that I hopefully will root, I'm going to actually put them in containers and see if I can grow them in some containers. But this is Beauregard. It's a nice orange. They store very, very well. It has an orange flesh instead of the purple kinds. And I'm going to literally plant these guys right where there's a hole for the irrigation, right here and right here. I'm going to start right over in here to get this planted. Now, I'm going to have to back you up or point you down a little bit more. I've literally just put my hands in here. I spread apart a little bit. Now, it'd be great if the soil was more moist, but it isn't. So, I'm just going to pull out one of these guys. I'm going to dig down as far as I can. I'm going to push them there. I'm just going to mound them up. Just like that. Now, this usually works very good. And I'm not going to let them in the ground as long as I did last year. So, but that's just how we plant sweet potatoes over here in my garden. I don't know if it's right, wrong, or indifferent, but it's something. We're trying. So, we'll be back in a little bit. Okay, so I've got 40 rows or 40 plants of sweet potatoes. Told you I did the Beauregards. I also have the Joels. They both do very well. I planted them not last year, the year before, and everything did phenomenal. I have my irrigation right up next to the plant, so that will get watered and do amazing. So, what are we on to next? Okay, so now we are up to our tomato plants now. I'm not going to lie to you. These guys are looking a little on the leggy side, but I drilled all the holes, and I'm going to show you how I plant these guys. Let me get this set up. Okay, so I did my manure and my eggshell mixture. Now, I've got these holes anywhere from 4 to 8, 10 inches long. And when I go to plant one of my tomatoes, I'm going to see which one's going to fit the best. But I'm going to pull this one out of the container. Of course, I'm going to smash it a little bit, but not hard enough to break the container. But just to get the plants to loosen. Sorry about that, I bumped it. And then I'm going to drop my plant all the way down in here as far as I can get it to go. I'm going to smush the dirt around, get the roots to go in. My goal is to actually get it to go down as far as I can. See, that is a good, from the roots up, at least 8 to 10 inches. So then I just fill this in. And I try to bring up a little bit. And yes, this has some old weeds in it that died, and that's fine because you want organic mixture. Now, the reason I mound this is because I want it to get the biggest root system I can get. Without the root system, it will die. Now, if we go through a really bad drought and I can't water these guys, the underneath ground, that's 6, 8 inches, 10, 4, the deeper the root system, the healthier the plants. Now, there are some places that I hit rock that I could not go more than maybe 3 inches. And I'll show you how I do that in a minute. Just going to get these guys all planted up. Okay, so I'm down here and I couldn't dig very far. I only have maybe 4 inches deep. And yes, my plant isn't that tall, but it's still a little taller than I want it to be. So what I did was I made like a trough. And I'm going to pull this out because I want more of a root system. And by the way, I did plant these tomatoes about every 2 feet apart. So they're right next to the irrigation line where it's going to drop out water. So as you can see, hopefully, I smushed out the root system and took it all the way across. Now I'm slowly going to bend this guy up a little bit. And I'm going to pile dirt up around it. I'm going to cover it up really good. And he's good and deep. More roots, better the plant. Now this is pretty much, I'm sure it's true with every plant out there. It's kind of like if you give it a good nutritional background growing up, when they're babies, they seem to be healthier children unless something weird happens. So there you go. We've got it. And I've got one more like that to do, and then I'm back to just planting in holes. Well, there you have it. There's some planting techniques that I've been using for live plants, and I hope you enjoyed it. And I also have a little video I might get together of the way I plant up my seeds this year. I do like to try different things in my garden to find out what works best in different areas. And and remember, if you like my content, please like, share, and subscribe. And Charlie B signing out. I'll be talking with you soon.